Hello, and thank you for joining us for episode 4 of the Download Community Tech Talks. These are talks by HPCC Systems community experts for the HPCC Systems community. We're really excited that you're able to join us today. Just some basic housekeeping rules. Please share. So we've got a hashtag on Twitter, and we hope that you'll let others know that you're here with us today. And please also ask questions. We will answer as many of these questions as we can following each speaker. For the questions we aren't able to get to, please check our blog periodically. We will have updates both after today's Tech Talk as well as later as we get answers to some of those questions. We will also be asking polls throughout today's Tech Talk. Look at the bottom of your screen for the polls. And if for some reason you can't see those, please exit your full screen mode or refresh your screen. Also, we welcome your feedback. Please do remember to rate us at the end of the Tech Talk and visit our blog for more information. And if you'd like to be one of our featured speakers, we would love to have you. Please email us at the address listed there and let us know what you'd like to talk about. So we're going to go ahead and get started now. I'm going to turn everything over to Flavio Villanustre.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for attending this Tech Talk. I am quite excited, and this is not very different from every Tech Talk we have, because we have great presenters and a few topics that I think will appeal to everyone here on this call. But before we get into the specifics of the Tech Talk today, I have two important announcements to make, and these two announcements have to do with our internship program and our call for presentations and posters for our Community Day this year. The first one is, I want to remind everyone on this call, and please remind everyone that you know that might be interested in internship in HPCC, that our internship program is closing the call for proposals from students. And that deadline has been extended to April 22nd, which is just around the corner. So if you know of someone that would like to do an internship and either has one or more of the topics that we propose in our public roster of topics or a different topic that they want to work on, please ask them to submit their proposals and not take much time. Don't wait until the last minute. It just makes things difficult for everyone, including us. So if you have anyone that knows or you want to apply, please apply quickly. The proposals will be received until April 22nd. So the deadline has been extended already, and I don't think we will be able to extend it anymore. So this is it. And of course, the details for this program are in our community portal, hpsystems.com/intern2017. And you can Google for this as well if you don't remember the URL. But please take a look there. Let your friends know, and if you're interested, please make the move quickly. The other topic to let you know about is our call for presentations and posters for our 2017 Community Day. This year we will hold this Community Day in the Atlanta metropolitan area in October 4th, 2017. And beware, we have changed the date, which was originally scheduled for October 3rd to October 4th. So the new date, and hopefully that will be the unmovable final date, this Community Day will be October 4th, and it will run from the afternoon of the day before all the way to the evening of that day. Keep in mind that we will need to start receiving proposals for posters. The competition will be held on October 3rd, as I said, the afternoon before October 4th. And the submission deadline for both poster abstracts and presentation abstracts is, or proposals, is June 30th. So, and again, don't wait until the last minute to send that. If you are really interested in presenting something, or you have a poster that you'd like to have there and participate, please let us know quickly, even if it's just a short email with some idea, and then we can crystallize that idea later on. And for those that are partners, commercial partners, and would like to have a booth in our HPCC Community Day or have a sponsor talk, there are opportunities for sponsorship for partners. So please let us know, Trish or I. And for any details on the HPC Systems Community Day, please refer to our community portal, hpcsystems.com/HPCC Summit 2017. All together, no spaces. HPCC Summit 2017. And now, without any more preamble, I want to introduce you to some of those great people, great speakers, and also experts, domain experts, that we will have today with some of I say personally, one of the most exciting tech talks that I've been in for the last several months. We have, first of all, Gordon Smith, and I'm sure many of you know Gordon, but if you don't, Gordon has been with LexNexus for a very long time, and is the brains and the willpower behind all of our visualization libraries, user interfaces, and even our ECLID as well. Even though we will have another talk about ECLID today by David D Hilster. So he will be talking specifically about an ECL bundle that I think is great for everyone that ever wanted to have some visualization from HPCC and didn't know how to do it, or didn't manage to go through the do-it-yourself type of approach. So this ECL bundle called Visualizer will allow you to very quickly set up even complete dashboards from HPCC with almost no effort at all, and in a very very simple but very visually appealing way. The following talk will be by John Holt, and by now I think everyone knows John Holt too. He has been with the company for a very long time with LexNexus, and he is the brains and also the willpower and the driving force behind all of our ECL machine learning libraries. He will provide a nice update to the machine learning library bundles that we will have, and some of the things that he and Roger Dev and his team have been working on over the last several months, many months, I would say. So I think this is going to be a very nice update on what the status of these libraries is and what things we have down the road. And then we have David D Hilster, and I did allude at the fact that we will have someone talking about ECLID specifically. And if you thought that ECLID was going away, well, think again. ECLID is back for a revenge, and we have put a lot of effort. David particularly has been driving ECLID to do things that it never could do before, including support for other languages, and for those that work or play or have learned about Kel or Salt. Well, now you have the opportunity to also use those languages directly from ECLID, and the integration is fairly seamless, which is very cool for those people that need to get things done without needing to worry about the details of the editor that they use. So that's a great talk too, and I look forward to listening to David. And last, but certainly not least, we have Jessica Lorty, and Jessica, I'm absolutely sure you all know. She is going to be talking about our new version of our HPC Systems portal. Yeah, I've been referring you to go to the HPC Systems community portal for all of these links on information on the summit and the internships. But a great thing is that this portal is being revamped. The last time we did any substantial work on the portal was a couple of years ago, and it was up for another revamped session. And I think the new interface will be a pleasant surprise to everyone on this call, and a great addition, particularly because it will make content easier to find and the overall portal more streamlined and more visually appealing too. And without any more talk, let's just move on to the first presenter. So please, Gordon, take it from now. The floor is yours.
Fabio, thank you very much for that introduction. My name is Gordon Smith, and today we're going to be taking a quick look at Visualizer, the ECL bundle. Before we start, I'm going to ask everybody who's viewing to just take part in a quick poll. There will be another poll at the end of this talk. But the first question is, do you consider visualizations to be an important analytics aid during the R&D of your big data? Really, do you think visualizing your data while you're exploring it and trying to understand it, do you consider that an important part of your data analytics process? Now, as mentioned, the visualizer is released as a ECL bundle. For those who are new to these ECL bundles, they are self-contained packages of functionality that we want to share with people, but haven't necessarily made their way into the standard library, the standard ECL libraries, or as the visualizer itself is, it may not be a good candidate to be in our core libraries. So we've come up with a scheme where we can release, independent to the ECL language, we can release these bundles. So on this slide, we're just looking at how to get the bundle and how to install it. There's two main ways of doing it. This is a slightly long-winded way, and essentially you will go to the link to the bundle, which is an open source bundle on the GitHub webpage. You'll download the zip file of the bundle, you'll unzip it, and then you will rename it. Now, if you're doing this on Windows, when you extract the zip file, it tends to end up in a nested folder inside itself. So make sure when you rename it that you rename the inner folder. From the command prompt, we will run ECL bundle install, and we'll just pass in the full path to the folder we renamed. And all going well, you should be greeted with a confirmation message saying that the bundle has been installed. Once the bundle is installed, it will automatically be available to import within the ECL IDE. Now I'm just going to look at how you can introduce a visualization within ECL. And what's going on behind the scenes? We have an open source project called the HPCC Systems Visualization Project, which hosts a bunch of visualizations and a bunch of communication there that makes it really quite easy to visualize data that's hosted within a work unit or a logical file or in a Roxy query. And the goal of this bundle really is just to bring that functionality and make it available directly from within ECL. And this Hello World example demonstrates that. What we have is a very simple data set with two rows with a label and a weight, hello and world. We output that data set, we give it a unique name, and the reason we give it a unique name is so that we can reference that result set within the visualization itself. Now in this case, we're going to use a two-dimensional bubble visualization, and we'll see it in a minute. We give it a unique identifier called bubble, and we tell it where the data source is coming from. The second and the third parameters there dictate where the data comes from. We have omitted the second parameter, and that tells the bundle that we are going to look for this data within the current work unit. So omitting the second parameter defaults to the current work unit. Other possible options would be a logical file name, a separate work unit. You could put in a different work unit ID there. And finally, you have the option to fetch data directly from a published Roxy query. So if we submit that ECL, we will end up with a visualization like that. Now, initially, it may not be intuitive as to where to find the visualization within ECL Watch. Behind the scenes, what's happening is when you submit the ECL, it automatically includes a manifest file and some external resources. In this case, those resources are a mini web page. It's a file, a style sheet, and some JavaScript. You are able to embed any resources inside a work unit, and because of that, we are hijacking the resources tab within ECL Watch to actually display the mini web page. So to locate the visualization, you open up the Working It Details page and you click on the Resources tab. And ECL Watch these days is smart enough that if it sees an embedded web page called index.html, it will automatically display it for you. I'm now going to switch over to a screen share in a moment, but first, yes, I just wanted to point out that there is, within the bundle, there is a simple self-test, and it essentially just executes one instance of all the visualizations that are available. There's two ways to run the self-test. One is you can just submit the visualizer.ecl bundle itself, or secondly, you can do it like the source code is doing it here, where you import visualizer and then you call visualizer.main. And when you click on the resources tab for that working, you will see a very simple example of every available visualization. The next thing that you might want to do is actually look inside the visualizer.ecl within the bundle, because each one of these self-tests have a small bit of ECL, and you can look at that as a good learning point as to how to format your data for the visualization. So now I'm just going to switch over to screen share so we can see how this works live in action. And what we are looking at here is, if I can get my mouse over, there we go. What we are looking at here is the bundles folder, having installed the bundle, and I'm just going to expand it out, and you can see that the visualizer.ecl is available within the bundle folder. If I drill into versioning, the bundling versioning system, we'll actually see there's a demos folder. And all of the demos I'll be doing here today can be found within that demo folder, including the Hello World. So I'm just going to close away the repository view for now, just to give it a little bit more real estate. And the next demo I'm going to look at here is a simple grouped aggregate of some sample data I have. The sample data itself are some generic sales data. But what I want to look at is, first of all, the output statement that we do here, and we're outputting a table which is a grouped aggregate of the region versus the profit. So what region, and the regions in this case happen to be in Canada. So we're doing a sum on the group of the profit for each sale by region for this particular company. So that just outputs the raw data ready to go, and we've named it region profit under bar viz. Next, we have imported our visualizer up here. These prefixes won't be needed if you're just using it in regular bundle mode, but because this is internal in the bundle mode, it's just saying go up 2 folders and locate the visualizer ECL. So we're going to display a multi-dimensional chart of type column. We have said that we've omitted the first parameter here, so we're going to find our data within the work unit with that result name, and the rest of the parameters have been omitted. So I'll go ahead and submit that. And you can see the work unit here is compiling, and it's now completed. So when I click on that view, we can see our grouped aggregate table. And I am now going to click on the ECL Watch tab, which opens up as default the summary. I'm going to click on the launch button here just to give us a little bit of extra real estate. I'm going to open it up a bit larger. Click on the resources tab, and there is our bar chart, or in this case, sorry, a column chart. Now, just to give you a quick overview of some of the things you can do live while looking at one of your visualizations, you can click on the main thing you can do is you can click on the properties of that visualization. And what that does is it opens up what we call the dermatology or property editor for this visualization, and it allows you to change its look and feel. So in this case, I might want to change the palette to be a different color set, or maybe I want to make the orientation rather than horizontal, I want to make it vertical. I can then save that view, and it's now saved that dermatology properties. It's actually saved it back into the work unit, so it will be available from that point on. And if I click on the variables tab here, you will be able to see it there, HPQC, visualizer, persist string, and properties. So just coming back to the ECL IDE now, and I'm going to take another example. And this example is pretty much a similar thing, except for this time we're going to output an area chart, and it's going to take, rather than one column, it's going to take several columns. And this demo, which is called Area Chart Mappings, is specifically to show how you can map columns from a larger data set to a visualization. If you have your data correctly formatted, this can be omitted, but this is really just to demonstrate how it looks like. So I'll submit that. And what we're demonstrating here, as it compiles and runs, is that with a larger data set like this, with many columns, what we're doing essentially is plucking out 3 of the columns here to display in the visualization. And if I click on ECL Watch and click on the Resources tab, we will see that we should be getting an area chart with the shipping cost and the unit price. Now that doesn't look pretty nice, and that's because it doesn't know that these string values along the bottom are in fact meant to be time. So I will go into the dermatology editor, and I will scroll down to the x-axis. I'm going to change it from being an ordinal, which is basically string categories, to be a time field. You then get to enter a time pattern, which I have already done, and it matches. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the y-axis from being a linear scale to being an exponential scale. And I'm going to change this value to be 0.3. I'm going to save that. And what we now have is an area chart, which is a lot more readable. And we've lifted out a lot of the data from the noise level by making the y-axis nonlinear. Coming back to the ECL land, that's my segue to show that those properties that I changed in the dermatology layer can also be changed directly within the ECL. And if we look at this example here, along with the mappings, we've now got these dermatology properties, and we've literally taken the exact wording from the editor page, and we've just put them into a data set here to pass directly into the visualization. So you can say the x-axis type should be time, the time pattern is that, which happens to be the default time pattern. The y-axis should be to the power of, and the y-axis power exponent is 0.3. Finally, I'm just going to have a look at a dashboard. So what we've looked at up to this point were 2 static visualizations. So for the dashboard, we essentially are going to have 1, 2, 3 similar visualizations like we just looked at. Same things again. Each of them are grouped aggregates on different columns from my sample data. We have some mapping, and we have our properties from the previous example. But this time we've got a new data set here called filter. And what the filter definition is going to do, it's going to tell my final chart that it should be filtered based on the information in here. And what it's saying is, I want to filter for my area chart, I want to filter the ship mode from the ship mode in my column chart, and I want to filter on order pie chart, and I want to filter on the region in my bar chart. So I'll go ahead and submit this dashboard. So because we have specified the filtering conditions, we can now make an interactive dashboard for the user to play with. So again, I'm going to just click on the work in it. I'm going to click on ECL Watch. I am now going to launch it into Chrome to get some more real estate. Click on the Resources tab and wait for the dashboard to load, and there it is. So the first thing I might do is I'm going to make that look a little bit nicer. So I'm just going to drag and drop these pieces around. I'd included my dermatology pieces from the last time. And now we have an interactive dashboard. So if I click on Quebec, we should start getting some data in the bottom. Or if I look on the high priority shipping, and finally maybe the regular air. And that's our interactive dashboard, all done from within ECL. Now finally, I just want to talk about how you might share this dashboard with one of your work colleagues. There are 2 ways of doing that. The first one is we can open up this page in a new window using the Open a New Window button, which is prevalent all the way through ECL Watch. And that gives us a URL, which you can then copy and paste and email to somebody. The prerequisite here is that the user you send that URL to must have access to the HPCC platform. In the event they don't have access to the HPCC platform, what we can do is we can download a pre-canned copy of this dashboard, and you do that by clicking the download button. And what it does is it takes the subsection of data that I've just clicked on there, it packages it inside a single HTML file, and then it downloads that directly to my machine, and that's it there. Now, if I opened up that file, and we can see it's the local file, you get to see the same visualization with the same data in it as I had clicked on it. And with that, that concludes my quick demonstration of this. I had some extra slides just as a backup here, so I'm just going to quickly skip over those. And we are going to end today on another poll. And I'm being careful here not to click too quickly. And there it is. So, quick poll. Do you consider dashboards to be an important asset as part of your final product? So in other words, having taken your big data and published it to Roxy as being a product, would you consider visualizations and dashboards to be an important part of that product release? And with that, I am going to say thank you for attending.
All right. So I'm going to take a second and go back to your first poll, Gordon. It looks like the first question was, do you consider visualizations to be an important analytics aid during the R&D of your big data? And no surprise, nobody said no, so everyone finds it to be important. 31% of you found it to be somewhat, and 68% found it to be very important. So that's really good, especially as we continue to build our robust visualization platforms. All right. Gordon, are you ready for some questions from our audience? It looks like we've got a few in there.
I am.
All right. All right. So the first question is Visualizer distributed? It's running in Roxy or in Thor?
Well, the Visualizer bundle itself is actually running inside your local web browser. Now, where it fetches the data from is either Roxy or Thor, depending on how you specify those parameters within ECL. When you leave it blank, it will default to the current work unit that it's run in, but you can also specify a Roxy URL, a query published to Roxy and its URL. And if you use that, go down that road, then the filter parameters you're using will be used as the input parameters. So, and one of the demos in the demos folder, you can actually index this data, publish it to Roxy, and you can then have the dashboard calling Roxy for this dashboard that I just demoed, and it's a lot quicker.
Okay, thank you. All right, a second question. How is the Visualize tab found in the Output tab of the ECL Watch used? Or is this a different type of visualization?
This is kind of the more grown-up. The Visualize tab within ECL Watch predates the open source visualization framework, but it was sort of the genesis or the seed to it. So I see this as being sort of the big grown-up brother to the Visualize tab. I would imagine that the Visualize tab within ECL Watch will slowly be switched over to use a lot of these new visualizations and new technology and new ways of doing things. And it may be that the ECL bundle or the Visualizer bundle just simply replaces them because you get so much more extra capabilities with it.
All right. And can the visual output be used in a website outside of ECL Watch?
If it's a static visualization, and I would imagine a lot of people could, for example, when you're running a batch job or a large production job, you could embed visualizations to report on the status of that job. And those visualizations and those dashboards would be somewhat of a static dashboard saying that my job ran 80% well and 20% badly or whatever. Using the download button, you are able to download and publish those dashboards without having access to the platform itself. So you would be able to publish those externally. You can also, what we have done in the past is we've tweaked the visualizer code and the way it talks to the server to, rather than talking directly to the platform, to have it talk to a proxy server, which in turn relays the information onto the platform and then echoes via the proxy server back. Now this is a sort of a two-line change in the HTML that we're embedding in the work unit, and you have the source code to that as well. But that allows you to do authentication and to add session keys in between you and the platform. So you would be able to publish this external, but you would probably want it to go through your official front door so that it doesn't talk directly, so that you're not exposing the platform outside of your firewall.
Okay, wonderful. Gordon, what versions of the platform is the bundle compatible with?
The bundle is compatible with versions, I think the lowest version I've tested it with is 5.6. So it is backward compatible. The ECL Watch has had support for embedded resources for a long time now, and we're really demonstrating some of those capabilities. So it's compatible, I would say, with most of the installations that are out there.
Okay, and one final question, Gordon. Can I use the bundle in an air-gapped environment?
As it stands today, the quick answer is no, you cannot. But again, I mentioned it before, what you can do is, the reason you can't as it stands today is it reaches out to our CDN server to physically fetch the JavaScript that, for the visualization. But what you can do is you can take a copy of the visualization framework and host it internally. And then again, it's a one-line change in the HTML file that's being embedded, so that rather than referring to our public CDN, you can then switch it over to internal web server. And that web server could be ESP itself. So as it stands today, no, but with one line of change and with a small bit of infrastructure inside your air-gapped environment, yes, you can.
Thank you, Gordon. So before we move on, just a real quick revisit to your poll before. It looks like 86% of the people consider dashboards to be an important asset as a part of their final product. So that's excellent news. For our people in the audience, if you would like to continue to get more information about visualization capability, or if there's any other topic that you would be interested in around this or anything else, please do send us that feedback. It looks like there is a significant amount of interest here. So thank you, Gordon. All right. Now we'll move on to John Holt. John, the floor is yours.
Okay. So we want to start with a poll question. And our poll question is, which prediction machine learning algorithms do you use the most? And there's a list of them on your screen. So we're going to do a short review of how we are restructuring the machine learning library. As you should be aware of, the current ECL ML repository has been beta for quite a while, and we're picking up some use, and we're trying to turn it into a production-ready set of supported features. We're going to talk about the prerequisites for these machine learning bundles, the machine learning bundles that we're releasing in 6.4, the validation testing that we've done, and the machine learning bundles for 7.0, and then we'll have our closing poll. I seem to be stuck here on that slide. There we go. All right, so the restructure includes a Myriad interface, and basically what that is the notion that you have many problems, and we'll treat all of the problems in a similar manner, basically aligned with the single instruction multiple data aspect of the Thor, how it works. So we're doing a lot of different problems in parallel, and that's what the interface is designed to support. We've also changed our orientation. We're doing ability-oriented bundles instead of this one big collection. So that should make it easier for you to install just the parts you want and not bother with the parts you don't. Plus, it'll make it a lot easier to maintain the individual bundles. We are publishing the validation suites that we used for the results, and we're also doing the validation on using known implementations. So there'll be no mystery about why the results are the way they are, which is particularly useful for some kinds of machine learning which have a stochastic type behavior, or there are multiple implementations. And we will have specific performance profiles that will tell you that the bundle that the feature will work with, and give you graphs to show you how well it scales in different problem sizes and in different kinds of environments. Both for the large problem profile, which is problems that require much more than a single node, or the Myriad problem profile where you have lots of smaller, more modest problems. And then also there's an ECL bundles repository on HPCC systems, GitHub, and you can look at that to give you a list of the bundles and a list of their capabilities and background information. So this should help people find or better able to find where things are. So the prerequisites for these two bundles that I'm going to talk about that are in 6.4, the multiple linear regression and logistic regression, they both take advantage of the basic linear algebra system, BLAST support. So platform version 6.2 is required. BLAST support was added to the ECL standard library with the 6.2 version, so you don't have to worry about installing it in your cluster. The 6.4 version is desired, particularly if you're going to run the logistic regression. The compile times in 6.2 are very long. In 6.4, there's some optimization of the compiler done because the code generation is fairly complex. So things will work with 6.2, but the compile times for logistic regression are fairly long, and that's addressed in the 6.4 release. And of course, the logistic regression and linear regression bundles require the core and PB BLAST bundle. The logistic regression, we have a binomial response variable in this version. We have, again, we support the Myriad interface to handle multiple response variables in parallel. So if you are trying to do multi-level and you're doing that with multiple binomial response variables, we accept that. We work with that, and what we do under the covers is a problem. And by doing that, what I mean is not that we treat it as a series of small problems, but we simply use the Myriad interface. So you're going to run several. You could run several very large scale problems that way. And binomial logistic regression basically predicts a yes/no response based on some measurement or cardinal values that you're using for your explanatory variables or independent variables. Multiple linear regression is using an ordinary least squares. We support multiple independent variables, of course, and it is multivariate in that we allow you to work with multiple dependent variables, so you can essentially build multiple models in the same path. And again, it supports the Myriad, and it has a very rich set of analytic functions, so you can look at ANOVA and AIC, confidence intervals, and that type of stuff. The validation testing for logistic regression versus multiple linear regression, ordinary least squares is very deterministic. It's quite well known. There's not much question about it. We validated all of the outputs with the Python stats models versions of general linear models. The logistic regression, it's a little bit more up in the air, primarily because there are different techniques that you can use for regularization of your data, where your data is not quite as good as it needs to be. You have missing variables, or you have the potential for singularities in your data. The results that we produce are similar to the GLM package in R, and they are an exact match to the stats model in Python. And as I say, the differences are due to some small variations in approach, and they appear as fairly small differences in the coefficient. The machine learning bundles that we are launching for 7.0, which is toward the end of this year, will be support vector machines, both doing support vector regression models as well as support vector classification models. And it will do the grid search for your hyperparameter tuning in an automated way. There will be a stepwise logistic regression as well as logistic regression for the multinomial case. There will be a stepwise multiple linear regression, and in the stepwise capabilities, it's both forward and backward and best predictor, that type of stuff. And there will be a bundle for descriptive statistics, which will include things like correlations between nominal variables or ordinals, as well as regular correlations that you would expect with measurement data. All right, so we'll close with a quick poll and then take a look at some questions. So when it comes to predictive analytics, what statement is the most applicable to me? And you should see those, the detailed responses at the bottom of your screen. So let me take a quick look at the
Okay, so while you look at the questions, John, I'm going to go ahead and address your first poll. So the question was, which prediction machine learning algorithms do you use most? And the winner was support vector machines, and that's by 31%. And multiple linear regression is coming in at 18%. But the number one answer was none of the above, 43%. So so many different options. People are obviously using several different machine learning algorithms. So that's good information to know. So if you're ready for your questions, John, I've got a few of them here for you.
Okay.
All right, so here's the first question. What portion of the time do you have multiple independent data sets that need the same analysis and modeling process versus a single database or, one big pile?
Yeah, so, well, I'm not sure I completely caught that, but you use the Myriad interface. You leverage that capability when you are going to run. Let's say you want to run logistic regression against data from different contributors. So there you have essentially you're going to run the same logistic regression, but you want to build models for each contributor. So that would be a case where you use the Myriad type interface.
All right. Is a decision tree supported, or will it be supported in 7.0?
I don't know that the decision trees in random forests will make 7.0, but they will be supported. They are right up on our list of things to cover, and we're certainly going to put those in. In fact, they're the next ones after the stepwise and the descriptive statistics that we're doing. It's just I'm not sure that they'll make the 7.0 release, but they'll make the release afterwards if not.
Thank you. Next question is, I heard that there's support for random forests. Is that a part of the ECL ML bundle too?
Random forests is in there's a version of random forest in ECL ML, and it's quite good. It's very strong. So it does not support the Myriad interface, but as I say, that's what we're going to beef up into a tree and random forest bundle that will be done right after the 7.0 bundles that we've listed. We'll be working on that.
Okay. And here's a great question. Can you recommend any books or websites to someone who's learning ML for the first time?
Well, my favorite book is a book that's titled Machine Learning, and it's by Murphy. It was published a couple years ago. It's a very good book. It's a little pricey, but it's very, very worthwhile. The only downside to it is the math. It does require math. I had to get a couple other books to reacquaint myself with the math that I had forgotten from my undergraduate days. And
all right. Here's another question. This will be our last question for today. Can anyone contribute to the ECL machine learning library?
Yes. We obviously have standards with respect to the degree of validation testing that you need to do. Some of the contributions will be in separate contributor bundles as opposed to being brought into the bundles that the platform team supports. But yes, we're looking for contributions from any member of the community.
Okay, we had another question sneak in here, so we're going to do it. Are all the algorithms optimized to perform in parallel in a cluster?
All of the ones that we support in the platform team, we have optimized them to use the cluster as much as can be done. That's one of the reasons that we kind of distinguish between the algorithms that we in the platform team are supporting versus anything else. Is we've spent a lot of time and energy making certain that we can use all of the resources of the cluster to run these.
All right, thank you, John. So before we move on to our next presenter, I want to take a moment and reflect on your last poll. So the question is, when it comes to predictive analytics, the statement most applicable to me is, so the one that is the big winner is 33%. I want to understand my data to predict classifications, but I don't have any examples for training. And after that, the next most popular answer is 26% shows all of the above. So it looks like we're all over the board here, and people are really resonating with each one of these statements. So very good insight. Thank you for that. At this point, thank you, John, for your presenting today. And I'm going to hand the floor over to David D Hilster.
Hello, this is David D Hilster. I work on the ECL IDE. I work with Gordon, and I'm going to present to you today some new features that will be coming up in, I believe, 6.4 and beyond that you'll start seeing or may not be aware. Sometimes people aren't aware of those. But before we do that, we have our poll, and the poll question we have here is, which interface do you use for ECL? There are three choices there: Windows ECL IDE, which I will be talking about today. There's also an ECL plugin for Eclipse, and maybe you haven't even used any interface specifically for ECL as of yet. So that would be good for you to give us some feedback on that. So this is going to be a somewhat short and sweet, so not as profound as some of the other presentations today. But it is interesting that I was an ECL programmer for over a year with LexisNexis and wasn't aware of a lot of the things in the ECL IDE. It is quite a large piece of work there, and we are now adding the evolving systems that are happening around the HPCC and ECL itself. Obviously, ECL is a great language to program in, but many people who are wanting to do things with it often are looking at better ways to either generate ECL code or to do other things that are related to ECL. So the new interface coming up, you're going to see these things. And if you go to the preferences in the ECL IDE, the new one, you're going to see now a new little pull down there where it used to be only one. And you're going to see about 6 things there. You have ECL, of course, and then you'll have general, which is basically some of the colorization that is for the general functionality of the ECL IDE. And you'll see other languages there, ESDL or ECM, CAL, and SALT. So those are things you're going to see. And then when you click on those, you're going to see a little example of that code, and they're going to start. You're going to start seeing the colorization of that code. We use Scintilla, which is open source, so it's got its limitations like any type of syntax, but it does pretty well. And this is our first version of it, and so that's what you'll see in there. And you can change those colors. Of course, it comes with defaults. Okay, going to our next slide here. I'm pushing forward. Oh, there we go. Did we move? Maybe it's a delay there. The target backgrounds you can see as well is something we've added. One of the things is when I was an ECL programmer, you would be programming away and you'd have various targets. One is HTHOR, for instance, and you would be very careful because you had a lot of jobs running, and let's say there's a 400 cluster and there's a 50 cluster, and then there's these 1 clusters where you may want to just run something really quick. Well, one of the problems is if you're an ECL programmer and you're doing this heavily all day is you don't know where you're going to be sending it, and you get mixed up because of all the windows there. And this is a solution to that, which basically allows you to target the background, change the background colors for like light gray is H Thor. So before you go and you send something off that's huge to an H Thor, of course, which can't handle it, which is a small 1-node cluster, then this will help you in the visualization of that and finding that out. And then, of course, you can go to the general area now in the newer version and be able to change those. They come again with defaults. You can always change those on your own. I do want to, here's an example, for instance, of background that's got a color that's a local file that's locked. And you can see it's got this sort of light red, meaning, hey, you can't edit it. So that gives you a little bit of indication. I should have talked about the actual the languages itself, but I'll talk to you a little bit about those. Salt, for instance, you can see here in the interface, you see that there's an H Thor at the top in the target, and it's got a gray background. So that gives you an idea. If you're a programmer, you're going, okay, I've got this, it's going to run 6 hours. You're not going to run it 6 hours on an H Thor, which is, again, is a very small node, 1 node usually. You're going to want to run that on a 400 cluster or 190 cluster, or 50, whatever. So that you can see that. Then over this side, you're going to see something over in the registry over there. No, I'm sorry, the repository. And you'll see different colors now for those folders. And those colors, again, are color-coded for each of the languages. You can see there's hippie dude file, there's Cal, there's Salt, there's ESDL. And that's really important, and I'll show you in a later slide, because now that we're not only dealing with ECL files, and we often, for instance, a Cal file will generate a bunch of ECL files, we want to be able to quickly distinguish those between each other visually. And so now you can see the .ECL or .DUD or .SALT, but you also have a very quick visualization of that. The languages you see there, SALT is a scalable, automatic annotative linking technology, they call that, and it's basically you can do data profiling. So if you come in with like 9 billion records, you can do data profiling, looking at what kinds of things are coming in each of the columns. There's also hygiene of data. There's file deltas, looking at the difference. The consistency checker before a big piece of data comes in is something inconsistent with that before you commit it to the supercluster, and it's going to take 6 hours on 400 nodes, which dealing a huge amount of data, which is actually quite quick. There's also external linking. There's other language that's being used now is Cal. That I believe is only in the enterprise. Well, I'm not sure, but I think they have a Cal Lite for open source. But that's knowledge engineering language, and that's for people who are, a lot of these things are for people who are not necessarily programmers, but want to manipulate data in a more abstract manner. That's Cal. There's also ESDL, which is Enterprise Source Description Language, which helps with web-based query interfaces. Again, these languages are being developed on top of the ECL, HPCC world to make things easier because more people are using. And there's Hippie, which I believe is only available in the Enterprise Edition, which allows non-programmers to assemble a series of ECL macros into a working program. And some of these things can be very short, but end up generating thousands of lines of ECL code. Here, again, is another, one of the things I didn't put in here. Unfortunately, I'm not doing a live one just to keep the time down. But you can do mouse overs on all of these languages. So if you have an example file, for instance, this is a SALT, you can do mouse overs and it will describe the function. If it has some information about that function, it will do the same thing as it does with ECL. So you'll be able to see those different languages highlighted, and you also get a mouse over of functions. And there is no autocomplete. I know that's going to be probably a question. That's a long story about getting auto-completion, but that's not going to be in this current version we're looking at. Let's take a look at, for instance, this is Kel, and what's going to happen is this is in a local. One of the other things that we're doing is being able to run these generators locally on your computer. So this is on ECL IDE on a Windows machine. And you can see there's 3 files there, the 3 Kel files. They're reddish in color. And so if you actually submit that, what happens is it runs a batch file which calls Kel. And then what happens if everything works out well, if there's errors, you will get those errors back. But if you run that, they will in fact generate 7 ECL files. And you notice now, if you look at that same that folder, you can now tell the difference real quickly, what was generated and if it was generated. So visually, that's the idea. It seems pretty simple, but I know the people teaching the names. I'm a little new, so I apologize if I'm not getting their names right, but they came up to differentiate these visually. So that's what I'm showing there. So that's pretty much what I have to demo. Again, if you have not used the ECL IDE, take a look at it. I was a programmer in it for over a year before I actually started working on it with Gordon. Gordon's the original architect of it. And there's quite a lot of things going on there, and oftentimes you don't, it's hidden. So our last poll question here is, what language other than ECL have you used in HPC systems? And we have those languages listed: Duden, Hippie, ESDL or ESDM, Cal, Salt, or only you've only used ECL. But that pretty much wraps up my presentation. And maybe take a look at some questions.
All right, perfect. So while you do that, David, I'm going to step back to your first poll, and it looks like 72% are using Windows ECL IDE for ECL. So that's wonderful, and 16% are using the plugin. So for the 11 of you that haven't used it yet, hopefully you've got some good information to move forward with.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see if...
All right. So questions from our audience. What language capabilities are you planning to add, David?
We are planning to add some of the batch files that go along with some of these languages, something like ESDL. That will be included. I believe in this version it will be included, but a lot of these languages will also be running something offline in their own executable, generating ECL or doing other activities. So associated with these other languages that we are now having in available and colorized in the IDE, we will also have other types of functionalities. Right now we have, the submitting and those kinds of things listed when you have a regular ECL, but I believe in the future we're going to be adding more kinds of things and more parameters for that because of the requirements of each of these new languages are a little bit different from ECL, of course.
Okay. Languages, are we looking at supporting different embedded languages as well? Python, C++, Java?
That's a good question. I believe in the future that's something we can do. We are using Scintilla, which is an open source editor, so being able to do those, I think, is possible. We're working on the languages that are actually being developed here at LexisNexis at first, but that's something that could quite easily be added.
All right, thank you, David. So, quick look at your last poll question. What language other than ECL have you used with HPCC systems? And choose the one that you use most. So it looks like 38% are using only ECL. Another 38% are using Salt. 16% are using Kel, and 5% are using Dude or Hippie. So that's really good information. All right. So David, thank you so much for your time today. This has been very informative.
Thank you very much.
All right. So the next presenter is actually me. So I'm Jessica Lorty. I'm going to turn over to a screen share here. And Flavia did an excellent job talking about this at the very beginning of the Tech Talk. So not very much for me to do except to show you what we're working on. So last fall, Flavio came to Trish McCall and I and challenged us to look at our website and to try and find a way to help HPCC systems look like a solid technology leading platform and to continue to evolve the brand. So over the last year, you've seen some things changing in the way that we talk about the platform and becoming more clear and concise in our messaging. What you'll see, and this website should be launching somewhere at the beginning of May, somewhere within those first 2 weeks, and we're really excited about it. So as we said, we're definitely more streamlined. You can see we've got the Fork Me on GitHub, and we're really trying to show our open source roots, that we've got good, solid information on the page, and it should be easier to get to with a more responsive page layout. So you'll see us moving from the old style website with a lot of small pages where you have to dig deeper to find the information to the long scrolling pages, which will be easier to access through mobile devices or through tablets. You'll see we've got a lot of information. We're also working on our platform and the way we're talking about our platform and being more clear, more concise on our components and really highlighting the open source items. So this is our homepage. You'll see that we've got more information from our Twitter, our blog posts, and just more information on the platform, just upfront and easy to access, even just from the home page. So hopefully you guys can all look for that. Check back somewhere around the beginning of May. Okay. All right. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn things back over to Flavia to wrap us up.
Thank you very much, Jessica, and thank you to everyone on this call. There were lots of people, and I'm sure there will be even lots of people watching this later on the recorded version. It has been a great download today. We had lots of very good topics and great presenters too. I think this is becoming better, and it's becoming increasingly harder for us to beat our own marks. So I hope that we will be able to even beat this high standard next time. And I really wish to see all of you and have you on our next download. Thank you very much, everyone.
Just really quick before everybody hangs up, it looks like we had another question come through. All right, and Gordon, if you're still with us, would you mind addressing this question? When is VS Code support for ECL coming?
There is currently an experimental ECL extension to VS Code, which is available within the marketplace. And like a lot of things, the source code is available to the extension, for the extension on our GitHub account. So I would encourage whoever asked that question to try it out. Just install VS Code and go to the marketplace, search for ECL, and you will see the extension there. Install it and follow the instructions.
All right, Gordon, thank you so much. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We've been very pleased with the success of these Tech Talks. So again, if you have a success story you'd like to share, or if you have a new use case that you'd like to pitch or discuss with the audience, we would love to have you. Anything you'd like to demo, tips and tricks, or sample code you'd like to share, we would love to have you join us. So please reach out to us at techtalks@hpccsystems.com. And most definitely, please save the date for our next Tech Talk, which is on May 25th. Thank you.